Hello and welcome to the post-market update from Nirmal Bang. I am Hiral Dadia. Clearly, a volatile session of trade is what we've witnessed. Sensex and Nifty has ended higher on today's session, and this is after rebounding from the 7 sessions of losses that we've seen. Yes, we did track positive global cues, and that is what actually supported domestic investors as well. Overall, market did record the biggest single-day gain in a month, and we did regain that momentum to end near the day's highest levels. In fact, the momentum that we picked up was in the last 1 hour of trade. Nifty reclaimed that 11,300 mark and it ended the session 1.5% higher. Sensex ended with gains of almost around 480 points. It was very interesting to see how Bank Nifty was trading, because clearly, if you see in terms of Bank Nifty, clearly the trend was towards the negative, but again we did pick up steam on the financials, and we ended with gains of almost 300 points, wherein ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank as well as IndusInd Bank were the ones which actually led the gains on Bank Nifty. Taking cues from broader markets as well, we clearly outperformed the benchmark indices in trade, wherein you had the midcap index which ended with gains of over 2%, whereas the midcap index ended with gains of almost 1.5%. Interestingly, the midcap index has gained to post the biggest gain in 6 months. So that's the kind of moves that we've seen on the midcap space. In terms of sectors, you had all the sectoral indices that ended in the positive. In fact, we opened with all sectors in the positive. There were gyrations in between, but in the end, if you go to see, metal was the top gaining sector, which was then followed by the healthcare space. You had power, utilities, oil and gas as well. In fact, you did see some bit of pressure that did come in on the IT majors, and this was mainly because the rupee slipped in intraday trade to almost a 16-month low. So that's what something actually pressured the IT space. Overall, if you go to see in terms of the market breadth as well, that was pretty much tilted in favor of the buyers. So right now in today's day of trade, overall, if you go to see, yes, the trend is slightly positive. There is that some bit of consolidation that is required at current levels to see that positivity sustained from here on as well. But if we do not see consolidation at current levels, there is a possibility that again you could see some bit of a downtick in today's session. In the next session, you have the G7 summit, wherein you have central bankers from across the world that will be meeting as well. Let's see what comes out of the G7 summit as well, because that is going to be crucial right now. What they decide for the economies as well is going to be important, and that's how will actually give us a direction as to how US markets react in trade, and in turn how Asia opens in tomorrow's session. Let's quickly understand the gainers and losers. On Nifty 50, you had Vedanta, Tata Steel, Sun Pharma, Hindalco and Zee Entertainment as the top gainers, whereas Yes Bank, ITC as well as Bajaj Auto, these three were the top losers on Nifty 50. On the broader markets, you had Tata Elxsi, KEI Industries, Future Consumer, Ajanta Pharma. Those were the top gainers on BSE 500, whereas you had companies like Gayatri Projects, Welspun India, Jain Irrigation, Kaplan Point, these were few of the top losers. You had companies like Atul, Deepak Nitrite, Ipca Laboratories, Pfizer and Ajanta Pharma, which hit a 52-week high in intraday trade. And stocks like Bank of India, CESC, Exide Industries, Himadri Specialty, Raymond, Reliance Capital, these were few of the names that actually hit a 52-week low in today's session. Let's quickly highlight the movers and shakers of trade. Newgen Software, that stock ended higher on the back of a patent that they've received. Devious Laboratories, fresh longs were being built on this counter. The stock saw smart gains. Pfizer also hit an all-time high on the buzz that that its parent company has identified some antiviral compounds to inhibit coronavirus. Let's see if this comes in as a blessing in disguise as well for all the countries that have been affected with coronavirus so far. Sri Renuka was under pressure as well. In fact, the stock hit all-time high low. Prestige Estates also jumped in trade. You had Future Consumer that rallied for a second consecutive session. Vodafone Idea gained in trade. You had Sarah Sanitary Ware also that was up in trade. Sale ended higher. Cosmo Films also jumped in trade. Tata Motors surged on the buzz of completing the delivery of its first LNG powered bus. And you had Man Industries that actually rose on the back of an order win. So overall, if you go to see, a lot of movers and shakers, a lot of individual stock specific action that we have witnessed in trade today. In fact, in spite of that weakness that we did see in intraday's session, the last hour of trade is where we actually picked up momentum. It's going to be interesting to see whether we are able to sustain this momentum in tomorrow's day of trade, because that's going to be something, that we will have to watch out for, because finance ministers and central bank chiefs from G7 countries will be holding their talks later in the day today to discuss ways to coordinate their responses to cushion the epidemic's impact on the global economy. Whatever comes out of this G7 countries meet is something which is going to be crucial, will help us decide the direction of the US markets, and then in turn have Asian markets also react to the same. But clearly, the way the VIX has been panning out, it does seem that the volatility is expected to remain high even in the month of March. There is supposed to be some bit of profit booking at higher levels. Buy on dip, sell on rally is the kind of strategy that investors and traders have been adopting at this current point in time. So there is no specific level that we need to watch out for as of now, but clearly if you see in terms of Nifty 50, we've regained that 11,300 mark. So there is some bit of cushion that is coming in. There is consolidation which is required at current levels to not see any further plunge from these levels. But if any bad news comes in, if the markets are not really happy from what comes out of the G7 countries meet, that is something which could actually pay spoil sport. That's all that we have in the post-market update. Thanks for watching.